Times LeBron James got into heated beef with other NBA players. LeBron James came into the league at 19 years old and quickly became a star in the league. James had to grow up fast, and the only way to do this was to mature beyond his age. James very rarely gets thrown out of games or receives technical fouls. He stays in his lane and doesn't look to create or cause drama. However, other players around the league will look for an opportunity to get under his skin to gain an advantage in any way. After all, James is a human too. Things will annoy him just like us. Here are the times when LeBron James had beef with NBA players. Continue watching to see how LeBron responds to these players looking to beef against him. Stanley Johnson. In April of 2016, LeBron James was playing really well against the Pistons in the 2016 playoffs. In Game 1, James had 22 points, 11 assists in a Cavaliers win. In Game 2, he had 27 points on just 18 shots in a 17-point Cavaliers win. But with the Cavs up 2-0 in the series, Pistons' young prospect Stanley Johnson didn't see it that way. Stanley Johnson thought he had James right where he wanted him. After Game 2, Johnson had this to say, "I'm definitely in his head. That's for sure." The Cavs had won the game 107-90 before Johnson made these comments. Johnson continued his rant. "He laces up his shoes the same way I lace up my shoes," he said. "He has to come out there and compete and make his shots. He doesn't come prepared. That's the NBA. Anybody and everybody can get busted any night. From the last guy on the bench to the first guys out. He's going to have to strap his shoes in every night tight because I'm going to strap my shoes in every night tight." Then Johnson continued to rant. The media was enjoying this for one of their papers the next day. Johnson critiqued James's style of play. "He jabbers," Johnson said of James. "He moves his mouth sometimes. The whole team does, kind of like they're little cheerleaders on the bench. Every time you walk in the right corner, they're always saying something like they're playing basketball, like they're actually in the game. There's only 7 or 8 players who play. I don't see why the other players are talking. Might as well be in the stands, in my opinion." After the Pistons front office and coaching staff heard about Johnson's rant, Stanley clarified his comments later that week, but he couldn't take back what he said. Per ESPN, LeBron was 13 for 15 from the field when Johnson was his primary defender in the series at that point. Stanley Johnson's words likely didn't make a difference. LeBron is better than Stanley Johnson and will always be better. Even when not particularly motivated, James would be better. Plus, the rest of the Cavaliers bench would match up entirely well against the rest of the Pistons. He wasn't the first player to trash LeBron in a playoff series, and he's not the first to look kind of silly when LeBron dominates on the court.
You know, when you've got Watson coming off the bench and Ellenson. Johnson,
DeShawn Stevenson. The Wizards were one of LeBron's toughest matchups when he first came into the league. In LeBron's first playoffs in 2006, Cleveland beat Washington in a brutal 6-game series, winning both games 5-6 by 1 point in overtime. In 2007, the teams matched up again, but an older, better LeBron swept a short-handed Washington squad that was without guards Gilbert Arenas and Caron Butler. Again in 2008, the teams matched up, and DeShawn Stevenson wasn't thrilled. Dating back to March, the Wizards led the Cavs by 2 in a tight game. Stevenson drew the responsibility for guarding James on the game's deciding possession, and James pulled up and missed a 3. In the post-game interview, Stevenson stated his opinion about James. "He's overrated," Stevenson said, "and you can say I said that." Nobody agreed with Stevenson, so he had to reiterate his opinion. Stevenson spoke again and said, "If you look at the games and what's going on, when I go to sleep and know we have to play the Lakers, I know it's going to be a long night. It's the difference between the Kobes and LeBrons. Not saying he'll never get there, but that's what I'm saying." James said he wouldn't respond to the criticism, saying that responding to Stevenson would be like Jay-Z saying something bad about Soulja Boy. James was basically saying that Jay-Z is a legend of hip-hop and that Soulja Boy had one really big hit that was mainly popular due to its corresponding dance craze. LeBron had also called DeShawn a nobody jokester, and then DeShawn basically said, "Hey, maybe a nobody jokester can win." Stevenson didn't win. LeBron scored 30 points 4 times and had a 27-point triple-double in a series-clinching Game 6. After the season was over, Jay-Z recorded a diss cover of Too Short's Blow the Whistle that defended LeBron and performed it in a Washington nightclub. Stevenson's teammate, Caron Butler, was there and actually left because he felt disrespected. Not only did the Wizards lose the series, but they also had a famous rapper perform a diss track at a popular club in their own city. Stevenson didn't know what he was getting himself into. He was also completely wrong with his prediction. Brandon Jennings. The Bucks squeaked into the playoffs in the 2012-2013 season, going 38-44. As a number 8 seed, they were big-time underdogs against the defending NBA champs in the Miami Heat, who were led by LeBron. Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Brendan Jennings still came into the series thinking the Bucks would upset the Heat. I'm real confident. I'm sure everybody's writing this off, but I see us winning the series in 6. He doubled down on his comments with an interview with TNT, leading to an all-time face glaze from Dwayne Wade. The Heat won the first 2 games of the series, and down 2-0, Jennings still believed the Bucks would pull off an upset series win. I still said 6, Jennings told in an interview after Game 2, so we'll see what happens. Might take a little longer. In spite of Jennings' continued Bucks in 6 proclamation, the end result was Heat in 4. LeBron won this by his actions on the court. He didn't even need to say anything.
Andre to KCP to Brandon Jennings. Brandon drives it, flips it up off glass, got it! As time runs out, Brandon Jennings with the score!
Lance Stephenson. We just spoke about DeShawn Stevenson. Now we'll talk about Lance Stephenson. Don't get it confused. Lance has always been into annoying players on the court. He's done it for a while. So in 2012, as a second-year player who rarely played, Lance filled his role from the bench when he faced off against LeBron. Stevenson made a choking gesture from the bench after LeBron missed a free throw. I try to talk to other players, but in a good way. Get them off their game a little, but not being disrespectful. I just got out of hand one time, and I'll never do it again. LeBron wasn't buying it from Lance Stephenson. He responded, "Lance Stephenson? You want a quote about Lance Stephenson?" James said after practice, "I'm not even going to give him the time. Knock it off." It wasn't reported at the time, but reports say that Pacers forward Danny Granger claimed that the Heat went searching for Stephenson in the locker room after the game. Regardless of whether that story is true, Juan Howard fronted Stephenson on the court before the next game, even though neither player really played much. 2 years later, Stephenson had a big role. He became the guy the Pacers primarily assigned to guard LeBron, and he was just as annoying on the court as off, coming to the height of his power in Game 5. Of all the silly moments in NBA history, the most iconic of them all was when Lance Stephenson blew in LeBron's ear. Stephenson attempted to literally occupy space in James's head by blowing air into it. But again, it didn't work. The Heat would end the series in the next game with a 25-point win. Nice try, Lance. Joakim Noah. Chicago Bulls forward Joakim Noah and Cleveland Cavaliers forward LeBron James have a history of disliking each other. 2010, Noah and James exchanged words because Noah was unhappy with James dancing on the sideline during the game. On April 19, 2010, Noah made comments about James's hometown of Cleveland. First, Noah said Cleveland really sucks. "I don't know about this place, man," Noah said in an interview with TMT back then. "I just stayed in my hotel room. Every time I look at my windows, it's pretty depressing here, man. No going out in Cleveland, man. It's all factories." Asked later if he regretted those comments, Noah responded, "Not at all." "You think Cleveland's cool?" Noah said. "I've never heard anybody say, 'I'm going to Cleveland on vacation. What's so good about Cleveland?'" Then in Game 2 of the 2013 NBA playoffs, Noah and James received double technicals for exchanging words after an offensive foul by James. It seems like every time. James is not one to get into many altercations on the court, but when he is, Noah seems to be like the culprit. Even after all the beef throughout the years, LeBron took the high road. In a 2014 interview, James had nothing but nice comments to say about Noah. The feud between James and Noah probably will never stop as long as Noah keeps getting underneath James's skin.
And LeBron now walking a little bit closer to Noah, who's still talking to him, and somebody's got to stop this. I mean, the Chicago bench has got to stop this.
Enes Kanter. Enes Kanter is in a battle against the Turkish government, but that didn't stop him from beefing with the king. A former teammate in New York Knicks big man warned him not to mess with the king. Kanter told ESPN, "One texted me to say, 'You're about to get 50 dropped on you, boy.' I responded something back, but I'm not going to say what it is." The warning came after Kanter trolled James with a tweet following Oklahoma City's 148-124 victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers on Saturday. There was already plenty of back and forth between Kanter and James this season, and things even got chippy on the court during a November matchup.
Yeah, Kanter, that's what the crowd was waiting for. Oh, Kanter doing some mouthing. Oh, that ain't my house. It is Kanter. You knew he was going to mouth off at some point. Here we go.
"I don't care who you are," Kanter said of James. Time for Newsday. "What do you call yourself? King, queen, princess? Whatever you are, we're going to fight. Nobody out there is going to punk us." James responded per ESPN, "I'm the king. My wife is the queen and my daughter is the princess. So we got all three covered." The bad blood really came out when James suggested that the Knicks should have drafted Dallas Mavericks point guard Dennis Smith Jr. per ESPN.com. While the LeBron clarified it wasn't meant as a shot against Knicks rookie point guard Frank Ntilikina per ESPN.com, Kanter said, "We love what we got. on his Twitter account. James quickly specified he wasn't talking about Ntilikina for those who just live in a box and for Kanter, who's always got something to say. Even with the history, Kanter offered some respect following his most recent tweet. I mess with him a lot, but obviously he's the best player in the league. I respect the guy a lot, but I think right now they're struggling or whatever. I don't even think he's even thinking about what I tweet. I think he's worried about his team. Sometimes the more you play your opponents, the more respect you have for their game as a person. Kanter seemingly looks to try to get in LeBron's head and talk trash to get James out of the rhythm. While some would say it's worked to an extent, James has had the last laugh with his many milestones and accomplishments throughout his career. Kanter's done right by the community, and his recent comments about LeBron prove that he doesn't mean what he says. He's a competitor that will do whatever it takes to win.